Welcome, welcome. This is Stream World Live. Actually, this is the legal stream. I'll get after it. Shut up. The first thing we're going to check out is Marianne Williamson on the legal stream. Let's check it out. All right, let's hear it.
What they really think. We just live in an age of indoctrination on both sides. Would you agree with that?
I would actually. I think that people are so afraid of being canceled, and I understand where that fear comes from also. Not only do you have to say what you're supposed to say, but you have to say it the way you're supposed to say it today, as opposed to how we might have said it if you're older and we said the same.
This is Marianne Williamson on Bill Maher.
Same thing, but we said it differently.
Bill Maher's off. I almost called it Office Hours because Office Hours did a great remake of it, but this is Club Random, and Club Random hosted by Bill Maher in possibly his basement.
You have to be happy about it. You have to be happy about men on the women's swimming team. You
can't be neutral on anything. You can't just be curious. You can't just be open and
you
thinking
have to be
about
thrilled
it.
This is going on, and it's a great thing.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
What are you drinking?
He does like to get people to drink, so let's see.
Arnold Palmer without alcohol.
That's what I drink when I go out to a restaurant, because I don't want to drink. But here I can have my soda that doesn't have bad sweeteners in it. But are you?
Now she's like, okay, are you trying to get me drunk? What's going on here, buddy? You trying to get me drunk so you could get me into bed?
Well, on the campaign trail?
I am on the campaign trail.
That must be grueling.
It is grueling. It is very grueling. It's a mix of awful emotional roller coaster and really exhilarating at the same time.
What's the exhilarating part?
Talking to people. You know, the American people are not the problem. The sclerotic political and media systems that suppress.
She doesn't know what to do with his energy. I think after doing Hassan's show and now doing this show, she's thinking like, wow, this podcast circuit is not nearly as professional as going on TV shows.
Thwart the will of the people is the problem. But when you actually just are out there talking to people, people would ask me, what was your experience last time? And it's even more so this time, that the system, the political media industrial complex, is even more corrupt than I feared, and the people are even more wonderful than I hoped.
I don't agree. And again, I'm glad you're here because we can be honest about this and say we appreciate each other for saying what we think our truth is. But I sort of understand why, as a politician, even if you didn't really believe that, you have to say that. You can't start.
No, I don't say things you have to say. I'm not running saying things.
So
I think we have different experiences, that's all.
I'm just saying, I don't think you can ever separate the people from this government that's thwarting the will, not in a country like this. Yes, of course, in behind the Iron Curtain, the will of the people was not what the East German government wanted. That's certainly not the case. I think our government is a reflection of the people. I think you let the people off the hook a little too easily. The reason we have the people we have, it's they didn't get there by answering a want ad.
Well,
they got there because people voted for them, and their policies and politicians, yes, tell people bullshit, but the main reason they tell them bullshit, because if they tell them the truth, they'll throw them out of the race.
Okay, so what you need is somebody who doesn't mind being thrown out of the race. Somebody's got to tell the truth. And when you just said you think I let the people off the hook too much, and the way I see it, you let the government off the hook too much. Because if you look at poll after poll, for instance, the majority of Americans, both Democrats and Republicans, want universal health care. If you look at the polls, the majority of Americans, including Democrats and Republicans, want tuition-free college and tech school. If you look at the polls, the majority
of course they want free things. I want ice cream too.
No, those things aren't free. They are how how your own tax
But
dollars are
Marianne,
used.
come on, what easier statement could you ever make in politics than people want? Yeah, they want. That's not where the rubber meets the road.
The rubber meets
yes, they want free healthcare. What kind? What are they willing to sacrifice for it? Are they willing to? I mean, why don't we have good healthcare in this country? It's because they never really learned to tame the corporations.
Exactly my point.
Okay, but
He does Bill Maher does a show where he talks, and you got to listen.
who lets that happen?
The government,
people.
the legislators who are doing more to
Right.
serve
Who-
the profit-making
who
goals
are
of their
elected
corporate
by the people.
sponsors. No, oh, Bill, come on.
Somebody
I know.
sends Ted Cruz to Washington.
Well, that's Texas, my home state, so I can say it. So,
Well,
yes, but the obfuscation, Bill, and the suppression and the thwarting, and I know that. I'm running for office.
Yes,
I'm in the
sure.
belly of that beast right now,
From the
and I know
left
how
as
they
well.
manipulate narratives. Absolutely, the left as well. You know,
Okay.
it seems to me that if you have any two Americans, you were talking about the indoctrination before. If you talk about any two Americans just having a conversation, we tend to kind of get down and get real and get authentic as
like
much.
us now.
Yeah, you and I would do that. And
We're
do that.
doing it.
Right. Okay, but hold on. And that's one of the values of your programming always for years now. But hold on a moment. My point is that when it comes to our collective public political dialogue, we have been trained to go stupid. We've been trained to do exactly what you said. When it comes to our public conversation, we're indoctrinated and we think in terms of slogans and we
Right.
think, and you see it on the left as well as the right. You see it right now with the Democratic Party, this codependent relationship with the DNC. They say Biden is the one. Can we have some independent thought here?
Right.
Can we have maybe some exposure to other candidates? But I think that what I find in my experience is that people hear that and a kind of yearning for a more meaningful public conversation. But there's a lot of obstruction to it. And the media chops the wood and carries the water for the political elite. The
Yeah.
mainstream media. Absolutely.
All enabled by the people.
All enabled by those corporations, which are giving the money to the government.
Corporations are people. And
Did you just say get corporations are
no,
people?
Not in the
that's
legal
Mitt Romney.
No, that's not in the legal sense. I mean, corporations are made up of people, and people benefit from corporations. And apparently, Americans are not that up in arms about corporations. No, I agree.
I think it's starting to happen.
Corporations do have a stranglehold on this country. I've always
and
said
on
it.
our government.
Socialism is. I think it should always have been called capitalism plus. Do I think we should get rid of capitalism? Not at all. But there is some need for socialism because there are some things that should not be left to the private sector.
Exactly.
Healthcare being one of them.
So he is making sense, like as ridiculous as he is, he makes some sense at times when he can put a string of thought together. The idea that socialism would catch on much better if you didn't call it socialism, I absolutely agree with that. I think there's a lot of people who, as soon as they hear socialism, they get disgusted. But if you just called it capitalism or something similar, it would trick enough people and get them on board.
Of them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Tuition-free
It's a
college,
brand new
child
program.
care,
Not
paid family leave,
No.
guaranteed
Practical
housing,
problem.
guaranteed sick
Okay,
pay.
well, no one has this much money, Marianne. It's so easy. No.
It's the same amount of money. When you were talking about the private sector does some things and the public sector
Right.
should be. That's what you have in the hybrid
Okay, but
economies
that's
of
too much.
Scandinavia.
I'm talking about things like the news media, which would cost nothing. If that used to be a lost leader, in other words, they didn't expect to make a profit from it. So it wasn't
Right.
about getting eyeballs.
That's
so
right.
the nightly news didn't have 2 minutes of real news and then a fucking bear in a hot tub.
That's the point, though. It's all become corporate conglomerates. A lot of that came from
Right.
the Telecommunications
Okay.
Act in 1996. It's a bunch of
But
media
here are the
companies
things
profit making rather than educative.
But here are the things I think that got eaten by capitalism that shouldn't have. Prisons,
Correct?
news media,
Correct?
healthcare.
Correct.
When you start
And
going
college,
into
higher education.
No. The message we send to people about college is wrong. The message should not be everyone should go to college. College is fucking bullshit, most of it. The message should be we need far less college, and most people don't need college to do whatever job they're doing. And
But you're sitting here talking about how people are not
It's a-
thinking deeply
It's a
enough.
scam, college.
Well, it
College
has
is
become
a
in many
huge
ways.
scam.
But-
Higher education, they sell you this ticket because without this ticket, this diploma that says you went to college, some 4-year daycare center, you can't get the kind of jobs that pay well. I mean, we know the statistics of people who, what are the salaries of people who don't go to college versus go to college? It's night and day. You need that golden ticket so they can sell it. That's why, of all the things that have been suffering from inflation in the last like 20 years, college the most. It's gone up like 600%.
Well, and you have the college loan debt because these people were told they would close the
That's
pay
part
gap.
of the scam.
That is part of the scam. But there's another value to education, which is much more valuable, and that is the expansion of our thoughts, the expansion of our critical thought
That's
process.
they're doing the exact opposite on campus. The expansion
many
of your
cases,
thoughts.
they
All
are.
they do on campus is throw people off of it for having thoughts that don't conform to the one true opinion. I could list 50 professors I've read about who were fired or thrown off just for trying to teach nothing outrageous, just mentioning things.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the kids, the way these kids have been raised, the ones who go to those elite colleges, where we've all seen that video from Yale. Remember when the girl was going batshit on the professor because his wife had written a little memo saying maybe we shouldn't be such fuss budgets about the Halloween costumes this year. And this kid is just screaming at this professor. And I thought, okay, this is where it all went downhill for this country.
I agree. I was asked to teach, I won't even say what the institution was. I said, well, let me go and give a couple of classes or something and I'll see. And I felt so judged by the students. Instead of the teacher grading the papers, I felt that the students were grading me the whole time.
Right.
You shouldn't talk about that. I don't like the way you talked about that. It's like, well, yeah, there are some problems.
And that's you. That's a very liberal, enlightened woman.
About a book I had written, so I kind of knew what I was talking about. No.
I mean, let's just pause there for a moment to think what that means. That you?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we should get rid of all colleges. It just means there needs to be a transformation there.
But we also can't glide over the fact that that is the head of the snake. That is where the insanity that becomes winds up downstream in your world, in the political world, and then becomes issues like about transgender and racial stuff and what's going on in school boards where people do not like what their kids are being taught in schools. That it begins at the university level.
Well, the people who are complaining about what their kids are being taught in school in general are not the ones who went to those colleges.
Correct. It's the people who are teaching their kids who went to those colleges or are fans of that kind of thought. And I think a lot of teachers these days are kind of like semi-activists, and they think they can reorder human society, and the easiest way to do it.
Bill, you're so cool most of the time, and then you become this curmudgeon, almost like right-wing sounding. What is that?
You don't. Excuse me. That's an ad hominem argument. Should we stick to the facts and the issues, or should I talk about you as on a personal level?
Oh, well, I didn't mean to be like personally.
Wow, he gets all professional. She's finally comfortable to like talk to him like a real person, and that's when he becomes a politician. All right, let's see this.
And I think a lot of teachers these days are kind of like semi-activists, and they think they can reorder human society, and the easiest way to do it.
Bill, you're so cool most of the time, and then you become this curmudgeon, almost like right-wing sounding. What is that?
You don't. Excuse me. That's an ad hominem argument.
See, like as a comedian, you really should, as much as possible, avoid saying, "Oh, that's an ad hominem," because that just means I got my feelings hurt. That's all that means.
Should we stick to the facts and the issues, or should I talk about you as on a personal level?
Oh, well, I didn't mean to be like personally insulting.
But I get that. Sometimes it's like, well, I can't really argue with this on the facts, so I'm going to say, you're a mean old man who's saying get off my lawn. And that's not what I am. And let's just stick to what.
Okay. What did the old thing get to him? I think his feelings about, and she didn't. I feel like she didn't. She was trying to be playful, kind of, and that really got to him.
Okay.
The reality.
Okay.
So
I'm
what?
sorry.
Let's go to the reality of there's not indoctrination going on in schools, not all schools, but kids
Are
are
you
not.
talking about little? But
I'm talking about
something I
all
s-
levels. All levels, because I've seen the videos. So I know it's not secondhand information I'm being fed by any media source. It's actual videos teachers themselves will make and put up on TikTok, and they'll tell you right away what they're telling their kids.
Yeah, but what about the parents who are complaining about things being just kids being taught history, kids being taught about, the history of race in America, banning books? That's far more concerning to me.
Well, they're banning books from both sides.
No,
By
what?
the way, doesn't Bill Maher know that his appeal is kind of that he's a guy that is often pissed off and annoyed? Like, I thought he's as close as you can get to being Larry David without being Jewish. I don't know what Bill Maher is. Maybe he is Jewish.
What? You say they're banning books on both sides. Where is there a left wing banning of books? What
Well,
have I
there has
missed?
been. And,
Like, give me an example.
they tried to do it here in California. I think they tried to get rid of To Kill a Mockingbird.
No, that's not from the left.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No, it's happened. You're right. It's more from the right. But again, some of the books that they're being taught, I mean, I saw a very interesting video of a guy, he was at a school board meeting, and he was reading from the book that the little
He is
kids, little
Jewish.
kids
All
these
right. Bill
are
Maher's
being
Jewish.
taught from.
So
And it
he's
got very
nothing
graphic.
to worry about.
And so parents in the room in the school boarding start to say, please, please, it's too much. We're at a school board meeting. And he said, okay, it's okay for you to
Not read
read
it
this
at
to your
school.
children, but I can't read it here among the adults.
Yeah.
Now, excuse me if I told that story before, but it bears repeating. I mean, it's not a story. I saw it. It's again, one reason I like to watch things like that is because, okay, now I'm getting stuff firsthand. I'm not getting a New York Times report.
The greatest American rock and roll band in history, Aerosmith, present Peace Out, the farewell tour with special guest the Black Crowes. Get tickets now at livenation.com.
Of what happened at the school board meeting. I'm seeing it.
Well, I think you're right that there's this fringe element on both left and right. There's no doubt about that. And Eisenhower was, famously said that the American mind at its best is both liberal and conservative. I mean, there are high-minded conservative values and high-minded liberal values, and we all need to recognize that and listen to other people rather than judge so quickly. And
But given your
sometimes-
experience that you just relayed to me
Mhm.
on, you don't want to say the college, but I'm sure we can look it up.
Oh, yeah, it was Union Theological Seminary.
Okay. All right. So a seminary. even the kids at the seminary are woke. Oh my God, this is worse.
Yeah,
than
it
I
was
thought.
actually.
That is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so given that situation, just anecdotally, you don't feel like there is a problem in the educational system in this country, that it's too much indoctrination, too little actually learning anything? I mean, how about the fact, I know we should teach history plainly and for real. And by the way, even back when I was in school, they did teach us about slavery. They did teach us it was wrong. We didn't dwell on it like they do now, but yes, and we should have been teaching more about that period and more about that and how bad it was. Yes. Okay. But now I think we've gone to a level where that's only what they teach is kind of areas where they want people to have a political view on something. And if you test the kids on actual history, like basic history, they have no clue because they don't teach history. They don't teach anything.
There are some people in this country who only want to talk about what America did right and have no listening for places we got it wrong. And there are other people who only want to talk about what we did wrong and have no recognition of where we got it right. And I think that's really missing the point. Because if you really look at the facts, we are a glorious trajectory of both and.
Of course.
And that's what I think every generation needs to understand in order.
That's the mature
it's kind
way
of
to
like
look.
learning about your family history. Where did my family get it right? I want to stand on the shoulders of those who got it right and even do it better. And where did I inherit some things that I want to stop right here so that I don't pass it on to my kids. To me, that's the value of learning history, and definitely the value of learning American history. And I know when I ran last time, I don't know what the statistics are now. When I ran last time, 11 states didn't even require half a year of American history, civics, or government.
Right.
Now, if a child is not taught about the Bill of Rights
Right.
in those younger years, how do they know to be horrified when it's under an assault and the only
Correct.
thing people are telling them about is the Second Amendment? So, yeah, we have to pass these things
Yes.
on generation to generation, or people don't even know what they should be protecting, much less
No,
expanding.
when
They don't know to be horrified when you have
Right.
something like the Supreme Court actually diminishing our rights rather than expanding them.
Yeah, or a more blatant example would be Trump trampling on norms. We heard that so much when he was president, and he did, and then he went right to breaking laws and stuff. But, certainly if you don't know what the norm is,
Hmm.
then how are you going to know that he's breaking it? Then it doesn't become alarming to you what he's.
That's right. You don't see what's the big deal that he did
Right.
that, because if that person never learned in school, once again, the
Yeah.
meaning, the purpose of education. I remember there was a story when he first became president, and so his administration, someone came in and they were telling him the basics, I guess, Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the preamble, the Bill of Rights. And he was like a little boy. He went,
Right, I know. Oh, I know.
you know,
No, I'm beginning to think he was not a good president.
yeah,
But no, the
starting to occur to us there was a problem there.
the
And that doesn't even get into what's going to happen now.
the opening of, is it the Declaration of Independence?
Yes.
We hold these truths
To be self-evident.
Self-evident.
Yes.
You don't hear that word a lot, but it's interesting that they chose that. Self-evident, meaning any fucking moron would know this without even being told. And those are the things he went right away with a red pen and went, no, let's
That's
let's
right.
not do that.
That's exactly right.
It's self-evident.
but-
you don't appoint
but-
your kids to run the White House.
Okay, so that's true that he put the red line through all men are created equal. But Democrats,
Well,
as well
no.
as
What?
Republicans,
Who
have put the red line through inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of
Who
happiness.
put the red line through men are created equal?
Trump, in just the ways that you just said.
What does that have to do with men are created? He put the red line through like all these ways that government is supposed to function. Like, the FBI is not your personal police force. Don't appoint your kids to run the White House. Those kind of things. That's what he did. I don't know what you mean by all men are created equal.
All men are created equal means
Well,
He's
I guess he doesn't know about all the racist Trump followers that she's alluding to.
if you say that some group is better than another, if you demonize one group of Americans, you were talking about attacking the norms. He's attacking the
Yeah.
principle of radical equality, which is the whole purpose of the
Well-
American ideal, that we are out of many, we are one. You're not supposed to say Muslims aren't as good, Mexicans aren't as good, or some would say Jews aren't as good, some would say blacks aren't as good. The whole point of the American ideal is that we seek to hold that all men are
right.
created
I mean, I would
and
never,
should be treated equally before the law.
I would never call him an enlightened liberal, Donald Trump, but they've also made a little more of that than there is. I think he's a man of a certain era who, yes, definitely has racist inclinations, and certainly has said some things. But like that thing about, if you really look at what he said, with the there are good people on both sides, they just, again, like, I'm the least of a fan of Donald Trump as there is in this country. I've said the most ridiculously horrible things about him, and I'm proud of it. But don't gaslight me, is what I like. You don't have to gild the lily. And,
Whoa.
well, no, like on that, if you look at that, it's unnecessary to make the case on that. Like, there are good people on both sides. It's like very soon after he did explicitly condemn the Nazis and the Klan and stuff like that. I mean, I've seen tapes put together where he has explicitly said, I disavow. So let's just stick to how awful he is. We don't have to add on to it.
Yeah, I did.
A lot of people were more responsible for men are not created equal before Donald Trump came along.
Well, saying
Jefferson Davis comes to mind.
Well, kind of that's the whole point, because he was a Confederate and because he was a slave owner.
Right. And Trump
So-
isn't.
Yes, but Trump did when he said there are good people on both sides. You talk about Nazis who were there. You're talking about people who were marching in the streets saying Jews shall
But
not
I think he
replace us.
explained he didn't
No,
mean
no, no, no.
those
See,
people.
this is where you and I disagree. Gary Cohen stood there like he was apoplectic. Didn't say anything,
Who?
but clearly Gary Cohen, who was his Jewish Secretary of Treasury, whatever.
Right.
So when he said,
No, it's a horrible
hold
thing
on.
to say.
When you
It's-
say he backed it up, he backed it up when he got back to the office, and somebody said, "You better back that one up, sir."
Snuggle up.
It's time.
Okay, certainly, look, as I always say, he's stupid and crazy. So it's crazy just to say that, and it's stupid the way he did it. But I think it wasn't when they got back. I think it was in the same news conference. I think he did say something about that was much more explicit, and which made me go, okay, I hate it when that side cherry picks the one thing. And especially with him, because it's like what you can do it with, it's like working with a 5-year-old. You can find something that's so easy. You kind of have to understand, okay, again, he's bad enough as he really is. Don't do that to me, because it makes me just go, oh, everything has to be a team game. Can you just show me what is without putting your spin on it? The Times used to be a newspaper where, yes, I understand that I'm going to get your opinion on the opinion page, but the front page was like, oh, okay, you're just giving me the news. And that doesn't exist anymore. I guess it doesn't exist anywhere.
Well, it's because of what you were saying before, the conglomeratization of these media companies. And, there's no Walter Cronkite out there right now. Although you find some good stuff on independent media. You find some good stuff out of your mouth sometimes.
This episode is sponsored by delivers the tablets. It's now side approved to direct to interest and thank that it's in the 7 to all Twitter.
Well, Joe Rogan, ask Joe Rogan to have me on because he hasn't.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
he has Bobby, but he won't have me.
I'm not in that close communication with Joe.
Joe
but
Rogan, if you're watching, have me on too.
I'm a supporter and a fan and a friend.
So she's kind of saying oh, Joe Rogan's show. Now I'm on your show, but if I was on Joe Rogan's show, that would really matter.
I hope. I would hope something gets this probably easier. We just say it and then somebody will tell Joe. But you definitely should do Joe Rogan.
I don't understand it. He won't have me on, and also Elon Musk, who gave the Twitter Spaces to Bobby. And others. He said, any presidential candidate, I will give the Twitter Spaces. And I twice raised my hand on Twitter and said, I'd love to do it, and he won't have me. I feel very invisibilized, Bill, very erased.
And you should, and that's not right. Not
Thank
you.
That's
I mean,
weird.
there are some people who I wouldn't object that, but you ran once before. You're a really serious person. Look, I don't mean to say this in a mean way, but you're not going to be president. I mean, that's
You don't
just
know.
But
Wow, what a dick move. I don't mean to say this in a mean way, but you're not going to be president. Oof. What?
in a mean way, but you're not going to be president. I mean, that's
You don't
just
know. You don't know.
But you know what? Somebody's got to be in.
It's that indoctrination, see.
Well, yes, I guess.
Mhm. Right, long
Okay.
shot, the long shot
Okay,
candidate.
it's a-
I'm no more of a
but-
long shot than Barack Obama was at the beginning.
Yes,
than
you are.
Donald Trump.
He
Donald
was a
Trump.
senator.
But Donald Trump wasn't, and nobody thought Donald Trump was going to win.
Donald Trump was.
All right. I like the confidence.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not arguing those facts. I'm just saying
Okay.
that.
No, look, I think you'd be a better president than a lot of the people in there who, but
And by the way, why did you have her on if you didn't think she was going to be a good candidate?
you're right.
Yeah,
Let a thousand flowers bloom. Can
Thank
we hear
you.
from the people? And
thank you.
that's very surprising to me about Elon because, and Joe, who I like both. And,
Ask them.
but yeah, no.
He's like, we don't need a woman in the White House, okay? We already had a black guy in the White House. There's no way we're getting a woman in the White House.
It'd be different if they didn't have the platforms. It's not like they're on once a month and you'd be crowding out. No, there's plenty of time and space.
And I'm a presidential candidate.
Yes, and a serious person.
Thank you.
Yeah, Yes, we know this. I mean, look, you'll always be characterized because that's what media does. And let's be honest, comics. We all have to find things about everybody. Usually it's one thing. Bush was stupid and Clinton was horny. Trump was like everything. He was stupid and he was fat and he was horny and
the orange face didn't help.
Orange face and a mushroom dick, and it would just like never ended with that guy. But with you, they had to be the crystal lady or the because you have this background in spirituality. And look, you know me, we're kind of not on the same page with that either. But it in no way stops me from liking you or thinking that you're not serious. And also realize.
Well, he said she's not going to be president.
I could be wrong. Maybe you are right. We'll find out. It'll all come to an end, and it'll be like, oh fuck, Marianne's here.
At a certain point, it will all be very clear.
Really, you think so?
Well, that's my thought about what happens at a certain moment of death.
I'm very.
But that's where you and I would be very.
Well, tell me what happens. I'm interested.
Well, I do believe that consciousness survives death.
How?
Well, there's
my consciousness, like a ghost, like a.
I think the brain is the transmitter of consciousness. I don't think consciousness emanates from.
I mean, in what
brain.
form does it live on after we?
Formlessness.
So it's like we can't even imagine it.
We can't even imagine it because it's beyond what the mortal mind can grasp. Because it's beyond the concepts of time and space.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say there's a lot of
pure
evidence
ultimate truth, pure ultimate reality.
Okay.
Therefore.
I mean, again, I'm not going to say there's a lot of evidence for a thing like that. I mean, we are just imagining this and saying it could be the truth because
faith is.
Because I'm thinking of it.
Right.
So you're.
But I think in terms of the kinds of things that you and I are very concerned about politically, it's not going to be until after we die that some things are made clear. Some things are being made very clear right now, such as climate change and its catastrophic results. There are things happening on the planet right now that should be causing us beyond grave concern. And the fact that we are right now in the midst of this heat, according to all indicators, this is going to be the coolest summer of our lifetimes. The storms, the tornadoes, the floods. And at a time when we should be ramping down fossil fuel extraction, we are ramping up fossil fuel extraction. And if we elect either one, whether Trump or Biden, any of the status quo candidates, we will continue to ramp up fossil fuel extraction because of the undue influence of big oil.
Do you ever take a private plane?
I have, but I wouldn't do it anymore.
You would never again take a private plane?
Well, I will say this. I recognize that there's something wrong with it now in a way which when I lived here, someone might have said there were a few times that there were private jets. Probably someone you and I both would know, they're going to go to New York.
So you don't take a private plane to campaign?
No, I mean, I'm not at that point in my campaign.
Right.
But you got a good point.
And what if your campaign did catch fire and you had to do the kind of schedule that candidates do where they do take their own plane? You wouldn't take it?
See, now he's doing the thing because he takes a private jet and he doesn't feel bad about it, but he wants to see how other people feel about it.
I don't know. I have to really think about that because there would be an argument of the legitimacy of that. That's kind of not private at that.
I did an editorial about this, which.
Yeah, what would be the answer for you if you were running for president?
The point of this is that every single person in this town is a giant environmentalist. They all take private planes. You can get
but they're not running for president. They're just heading to New York for the weekend. That I would not do.
No. I get that. But no, I did a mea culpa about, I don't know, sometime this year about the fact that I do take private planes to do my stand-up gigs. Otherwise, I couldn't get to them.
Right.
But it's still something I don't have to do. But I'm tired of being a phony about it, or I was. So I just said, look, I can be called a bad environmentalist. I can live with that, but I cannot be called a hypocrite. And all these other people are fucking hypocrites. Everybody who's a big environmentalist in politics and government, except when I need to get somewhere and then I fly private. And you know what? God bless them, because the bigger point I was trying to make is, look, I believe as much as I ever did that this planet is dying and burning and we have to do something. But I also recognize that after 50 years of trying this plan of let's fix it by being better people, that's not working. I think we have to really work very hard to think of another answer to other than people are going to be good and use less.
Well, absolutely.
People are selfish and are going to do, and it's very hard to tell the people in China and India who haven't had air conditioners and cars for all these years, and now they're becoming a giant middle-class society that can afford them. Oh no, you can't use that air because we already used it up.
Well, we don't have the power to tell China or India what they can do, but
you
we
see
do
what
have the power.
mean?
Yes, I do, but I also know, for instance, if I
in the military, I dipped the entire time I was there. A lot of us did. One of the things about dipping is that
were president, the first thing I do is cancel the Willow Project. Biden
that?
has. What is the Willow Project?
Is that the
The Willow Project is
Alaska?
the $8 billion ConocoPhillips oil
Yeah.
extraction project in Alaska, which completely nullifies all of the green energy
Okay,
investments
but
in the
here-
Inflation
but-
Reduction Act.
But here's the thing, you're attacking it from the wrong end, and they've done this before. Germany said, okay, you know what we're going to do? We are going to get rid of all our nuclear because we don't want any nuclear, and that's no good. And then what happened is they had a shortfall, and they got ahead of themselves, and they needed more energy. So what did they have to go back to? Coal. So by getting rid of nuclear, which is the cleanest, they went back to something worse. And I feel like we're doing that also.
How are we doing that?
Well, because we're good. Biden.
He's given more oil drilling permits even than Trump did.
Yes, because people need oil and they're going to use it. And it doesn't, and this idea that we were not going to talk to Saudi Arabia. Remember when they killed the journalist and they cut his head off?
Yeah.
With the bone saw. And it was like, we don't talk to you anymore. Of course. This year, Biden was over there sitting in a gold chair, holding hands with a man and drinking coffee out of a thimble.
So why would we be supporting him, honestly, Bill?
Because if we're going to use the oil, why not American oil? Does Saudi oil not ruin the atmosphere? Of course it does. It doesn't. If you're going to use the oil that is not going to hurt the country while you're trying to figure out how to get off oil. And also, again, we need to really work on the idea that maybe there is another way, because again, I'm losing faith in the people can be tamed to, and again, this is your thing about the people are good people. Well, they're not good on the environment because you cannot get that. If you ask in a poll, do you think we should be doing more with the environment? Yes. Next question. How much would you be willing to spend a year to do it? It's always like less than $100.
But those polls.
For $100 a year, yes, I'll fix the environment.
Those polls so obfuscate. We need to make we need to mass mobilize, World War II level mass mobilization for a just transition from a dirty economy to a clean.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of big government.
So I think Bill should run for office.
And I agree.
Oh my God.
No, and I agree. Government does have to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby Kennedy says the discipline of the free market will fix it.
No, I don't believe that necessarily either. But the idea of World War II mobilization sounds to me like a lot of dictating to people how they're going to live in a way that is going to backfire.
It has to do with massive investments in green energy.
But we're doing that. I mean, Biden.
Once again, he says that with the investments, green energy, very healthy green energy investments in the Inflation Reduction Act, that is true. But the Willow Project completely nullifies the value of those, and also the $858 billion defense budget. The U.S. defense establishment is the single largest institutional emitter of greenhouse gases.
Of course. Yeah.
Of course.
No,
well, let's change that.
Oh, I mean, the U.S. military, I think if it was its own country, would be like something like the 20th biggest polluter in the world.
Yes, correct.
I mean, it's
single largest institutional one. So we've been taught to limit our political imaginations, and we must break free of that. This is our grandchildren's lives we're talking about here. We must make this change. And Franklin Roosevelt, when World War II, when Hitler started marching in Europe, the United States had basically nothing when it comes to a military. England had nothing.
Right.
And Hitler had been preparing his military for the last 5 years, plus every country he went into, he was able to absorb their industrial capacity. So what did Franklin Roosevelt do? He talked to the people. He educated people. He convinced people. This is something we have to do. And we did it. When the American people are aroused by genuine leadership, and they can really understand this is something we have to do.
Do you
we
really
have proven in our past past, we can and will do.
Yeah, but the people huddled around the radio in 1939 were very different from the assholes staring at their phone and reading Reddit today.
Well, a lot
That's
of
the
those people
difference.
that you feel are assholes sitting around their phone reading Reddit today feel personally insulted by that and would listen to a leader that showed them more respect.
They're not listening because they don't listen to a show like this. I mean, and the ones
They
who
listen to me
do,
on
the
TikTok.
ones who do would not be insulted by that. Because
What?
let me tell you, when I talk to younger people and you critique their generations, they never back down. They never fight back. They go, I know. We're
No,
terrible.
That's not what
We're
that's
terrible.
not what I learned. That's not what I see out there. And also,
Well, but
let's not
you're
get so
attracting a very small politically involved audience. That's not
Marianne2024.com
Exactly.
attract more.
that's not the typical person
Okay,
out there
you know what, Bill?
who doesn't even know who you are. The 20-year-old doesn't know who you are.
They're
doesn't-
watching TikTok. Hold on a second. Hold on. The majority, you're putting a lot of stock in the majority. The majority is not what changes
Yeah.
things. The majority didn't wake up one day and say,
Really?
let's free the slaves. Mm-mm. The majority didn't wake up one day and say, let's give women the right to vote. The majority didn't wake up one day and say, let's desegregate the South. As a matter of fact, interesting fact to me, the majority didn't even say, let's break and get independence from England. It always starts by a few people
Correct.
considered
Yeah.
outrageous radicals by the status quo of their
Yes,
time,
true.
who have a better idea,
True.
who are so convicted, and conviction itself becomes a force multiplier and invite and attract more and more people who get that this is the more evolutionary, sustainable idea. And then you reach that critical mass and things tip. And I believe what's happening right now, the status quo is unsustainable. Things are going to break one way or the other. They're either going to break in the direction of greater democracy and justice, or they are going to break in the direction of dystopia and authoritarianism. That's why we cannot put against Donald Trump or any of those guys in 2024 someone who does not deliver more for the people. Franklin Roosevelt said that we wouldn't have to worry about a fascist takeover as long as democracy delivered on its promises. Democracy is not delivering on its promises, Bill, and you can't expect people to be okay
Well,
with that.
It's not delivering on its promises to all the people.
All the people, 20% of Americans live, if you're in the top 20% of the American economy, you're doing pretty well. 20% are like on an island surrounded by a vast sea of economic despair. 70% of Americans experience chronic economic anxiety. 1 in 4
No, they don't.
Americans live.
Not 70%. That's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
That's the latest report. 1 in 4.
Report from who?
Yeah,
I don't know what that
CNBC.
means.
CNBC.
Okay, I believe. Well, look, I believe.
1 in 4 Americans live with medical debt.
Yes,
Half of our
there-
seniors
there-
live on $25,000 and less a year.
There is
People are rationing insulin in this country.
Yes, there is definitely an underclass. It's true. It's amazing that they are somehow able to take as much taxes as they do take and still can't fucking solve that problem. They can't get it from either end. I don't understand that because it's not like they don't take a great deal of taxes. What they do with it is a lot of wasted
Right,
graft.
that is correct.
I mean, look the COVID money. I did a long.
We talked about that actually on your show once.
Yeah,
It didn't
well, I
even
did
go
a
to
long
the people.
piece on it.
Mhm.
Like at least half of that COVID money, and we're talking in the trillions,
What
was
didn't
just
even go
flat
to the
out
people who needed it.
stolen.
They could have just given $60 to every person. It would have done
So-
more for people and to stimulate
So
the
yes, there
economy.
is this underclass in this country. I agree. They're like 40% of the country, I think.
Could not absorb
Like a $1,000
$400
or something like that.
unexpected
Yes,
expense. So think of the anxiety that you would feel all the time
I agree.
to
No.
live with that. So we need to attack it on the level of cost. That's why we should have universal health care. That's why we should have tuition-free college and tech school. We should have those things which are given to the citizens of every other advanced democracy, including those, like you said, the hybrid economy with capitalism with socialist elements so that you are taking care of
let's not
those
pretend
most.
that we don't already have a lot of socialism. 'Cause
Well, we have the police department is basically a socialist.
Social Security?
Yeah, which
Medi-
came from the Socialist Party.
Okay, Medicare.
But it's
I'm
not
just-
Medicare for all.
Unemployment.
It's Medicare. It's
I
not
know.
Medicare for all.
Well,
That's what we-
Obamacare is getting very close to Medicare for
We
all.
still have 85 million
Yes.
Americans who are underinsured or uninsured. And you have to
Yeah.
be really kind of kind of
there
buffered
are-
emotionally if you think 85 million people does not matter.
No, I hope I'm not the straw man who thinks 85
Yeah,
million.
I'm not
people-
saying that you are,
Okay.
but I'm just saying when people say, oh, well, that doesn't matter.
No, but I'm also saying that when you just ride around, you just see a country that does not look like it's falling apart.
Bill,
Like, my eyes also matter. It matters what I read and what people tell me. It also matters that I just live in this world
I'll be right
and I
back.
travel a lot and I'm out in the city a lot. And a lot of people are just living their best lives. And they're not all fucking rich. It's not all the top 20%. For all its horrible problems, this country still somehow, how we got through the pandemic and didn't go broke, I don't know. I mean, we probably will in the future. Maybe it's the inflation is part of that issue. But I just don't see a country where the people are just seething and unhappy when I'm out. And that has to count for something.
you know where I was last night? I was speaking to teenagers on Skid Row. Do you know how many people are homeless in Los Angeles County on any given night? 70.
If you go to Skid Row, you're going to, okay.
That's my point. You
that's
say
not-
you drive around, but where do you drive around?
Okay.
You don't drive too many miles.
Of course, why would I go to Skid Row?
That's kind of my point. So you don't really, you say, I don't see
No,
anybody going
no,
through that.
well,
That's
I
right.
don't.
You're not driving
Right.
there.
And most
They're
people
more than
don't.
an underclass.
Yes.
There's this invisibilized
Yes.
field
Well,
of suffering
It's
out
not
there.
more than an underclass. It's an underclass. It's a too large underclass that this country, that it's a scandal that we certainly can't seem to address it.
No. It's not that
But-
we can't address it. It's that in order to address it, you have to challenge the corporate bottom line. You either can allow short-term profits for huge corporate entities, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, big agricultural companies, chemical companies, big food companies, gun manufacturers, big oil and defense contractors, to be this corporate aristocracy that get theirs first. You can either have that, or you can have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Yeah, but-
It's not that we can't, Bill. It's
But-
that we, at this point in this aberrational chapter of our history, do not care.
The problem is that
and
they-
our government is bought and sold
Yeah.
by that corporate aristocracy.
Right. But government, I mean, from both sides, we were just saying, a lot of that money was Biden money that got stolen. They passed out COVID money. Okay. So whether it's Republicans or Democrats, it seems like they both waste a lot of money, take a lot of money they shouldn't have. And corporations obviously live like fat cats too.
Right.
And corporations very often don't pay the taxes that they should.
Yes, very often, Bill.
Yes, and they should not be able to park all that money overseas.
Correct.
It's a traitorous thing to do.
I agree.
But
AG1 is so much more than a greens powder. In one single scoop, it delivers daily multivitamins, pre and probiotics, stress adaptogens, and yes, greens. It's AG1. Get yours today.
Introducing custom t-shirts. Sticker Mill makes it easy to turn any design into a custom shirt. Promote your business, rally your team, or just make friends laugh. You can order one shirt or save money by ordering larger quantities in various sizes. Pick a shirt color and a quantity, upload your artwork, and select a print position.
what's the answer? Is to take that. I mean,
All right. I don't know. I've heard enough of Bill Maher for now. I'd like to now move to another clip. This is Joe Rogan talking to a UFO whistleblower. Let's check this out. All right. Let's see. All right. So he talks to CIA officer Mike Baker about a whistleblower. Let's check this out.
Here's my take on it. I think he believes what he's saying, right? I think he has gone out there. I think I'm legit. Like he was a 14-year veteran of military and National Reconnaissance Office. And I think he went out and he talked to enough people, and he he believes it. I don't think he's out there like spinning a yarn and is worried that now he's gotten over his skis and he's said, you know, too many things. And now I don't know. I don't feel like it's tidy. And maybe the difference between us is I spent, you know, a lot of time with the government, and the government is sometimes can be really, really dysfunctional. And it goes back to keeping a secret. The idea that they could have this what essentially is a covert action campaign, you know, to spread disinformation about what they actually know, right? When the easier thing to do is just to have the program, you know, if it's the U.S. government's, you know, development of technology, right? And we're doing this, to have the program and just keep your yap shut about it, not go for a disinformation campaign, not try to muddy the waters by doing this, because in a sense, you're just creating more conversation around it. You're creating, you know, now there's a little bit of a, you know, movement within Congress to say, we have to do this. Now we have to. So they're going to look perhaps for a misappropriation of funds, right? Because they're not going to pursue like the UAP issue necessarily, right? But they might be interested in pursuing misappropriation of funds. So if you're running a program, if it didn't, again, going back to the idea that it's a U.S. government thing, if you're running a program, that's the last thing you want to do, is because you're doing this program to avoid government oversight. You're not going to create, you know, this alternative narrative that, you know, could generate the sort of publicity or the conversation, particularly up on Capitol Hill, that causes them to then start looking and saying, well, where is money being spent?
Right.
Because there is a trail there, and that could cause a problem. So, yeah.
What are your instincts when you look at it? If I'm looking at it, I'm saying something's wrong. It seems like bullshit. What are your instincts?
Yeah, I think. I would like to, you know, I don't think we're going to get there, but my instinct is to say, how do we solve this, or how do we come to some sort of logical resolution, as opposed to saying, what is it right off the bat? My instinct is to say, all right, if the all domain anomaly resolution office has 800 cases, then tell us what those 800 cases are. Let's work our way through them, or have a little bit more transparency about working through those cases. Again, you'll probably whittle them down, right? When we were doing Black Files and we were going around talking to people about, you know, various sightings and things, you basically just crossing things off, going, okay, that was this, that was this, that was this. You know, you find some pretty mundane answers, you know, but you whittle it down to maybe one or two things that you can explain, and then you can investigate those and say, okay, all right, let's dig further on these. But right now it's just like all over the map, and they've got so many cases and they just kind of lump it all together. Are they doing that to obfuscate and create, you know, this situation where it does seem like bullshit? And I don't know, but I think
there could be aliens.
I'm not willing to shut the door on saying that those handful of those few sightings that where we do have technical data, we got video, we got, you know, radar lock, we got gun camera footage, whatever it may be, that can't be explained. I'm not willing to close the door and saying, well, it's, you know, is it, because who knows? Maybe China's doing the same thing. You know, oh, we're leading the hypersonic race right now. Great. But they've got another program, you know, and they're responsible for the Tic Tac, right? So we have to pursue it. And if that leads us to the doorstep that says, oh, that's a U.S. government program and they've developed the technology, okay, you know, fine. But, you know, I realize that, you know, I'm not willing to close the door on saying it could be something else. It could be otherworldly, right? Because I just don't know.
Could be.
It could be. I just don't know.
There is
that
problem of the infinite nature of space, which seems to actually be getting bigger.
Yeah, there was a good way of putting it that my wife, who's a hell of a lot smarter than I am, tried to explain it to me, and I kept looking at it like this. But she had heard a program at one point where the person explained it like, okay, imagine how vast the ocean is, right? And you know how we've explored the ocean, but then you look at space and how immense it is, right, compared to the ocean, right?
Right.
The amount that we've explored in space, right, is equivalent to like a wine glass full of ocean water, right? So you take a wine glass full of ocean water, you look at it and you go, there's nothing there, right? You know, there's all those life forms, there's all those fish in the sea. it's kind of like that. And then, you think about space and you think about what we know and what we don't know and how we imagine, like our limited capacity to imagine what life outside of Earth could look like.
Right.
So yeah.
But when you hear talk of like crashed retrieval programs.
Yeah. That keeps taking me back and is, to this whole idea of, if there was a crash retrieval and reverse engineering program like David Grush talked about and had been in existence for decades, somebody would have fucking opened their yap and talked about it. I think
other than Bob Lazar.
And they would have had some better specifics, right? I mean, that's always the thing. It's always where it falls down. Well, I haven't seen it, but I talked to somebody who knows that it exists, right? And I think maybe it's because we're human, we're programmed to actually want physical evidence, right? We want to actually see it before we believe it. But that really hasn't happened yet.
What's one of the things that's fascinating is the narrative has shifted so wildly from it's completely preposterous to credible people like David Fravor and Ryan Graves and all these different people that are talking about multiple sightings, things that completely defy our understanding of what a vehicle is capable of doing, hovering completely motionless in 120 knot winds, all the whole, whatever that thing is, the cube inside a sphere that they keep seeing over and over again.
Right.
Like,
almost hit one of the aircraft.
Yeah.
And
what the fuck is that?
Yeah. And then they land. So I think, one of the good developments out of all of this, and one of the things that may eventually lead to transparency